All right, let's cut through the noise right now. Forget the endless cycle of chart watching, hyped up influencers promising 100x pumps, and the usual Bitcoin versus altcoin speculation. Something monumental has been unfolding right under your nose, and nope, it's not retail hype. It's silent institutional capital moving in waves so huge they make everything you've seen before look tiny. And here's what that means for your portfolio. When trillion-dollar institutions position before retail even notices, the price discovery phase that follows is where generational wealth gets made. XRP surged past $2.9 in late 2025, a 400% move from its lows, and analysts tracking institutional flow patterns suggest that was merely the opening act. Imagine this. While you're glued to TradingView tweaking your indicators, Franklin Templeton, a financial giant managing $1.66 trillion, is running $794 million of tokenized US government money funds in silence on the Stellar network. That's 65% of their Benji fund live on a public blockchain, earning intraday yields through 5-second settlement finality, a feat impossible for any traditional bank to match. Not to mention, the XRP ledger didn't just process a couple transactions here and there. It hit 1.35 billion XRP in daily payment volume in early December 2025, roughly 10 times the usual. Get this, in July alone, Ripple processed 70 million transactions, averaging 1.8 million per day, with more than 3,000 new accounts added every single day. Lifetime XRP ledger transfers are approaching 3.83 billion, showing unstoppable growth. Why does volume matter for price? Simple economics. When utility-driven demand spikes tenfold while supply remains fixed, the only variable left to move is price. And we're watching that equation play out in real time. This is not a game of speculation. It's RippleNet partnering with over 300 financial institutions across 45+ countries, with 40% actively using XRP for on-demand liquidity corridors. If this is your first time here, I break down institutional-grade crypto opportunities with data-driven analysis that actually matters for long-term wealth building. Smash that like button if you want more content like this, hit subscribe, and drop a comment, because what I'm about to show you might completely reshape your investment thesis. Wall Street's silent bet on tokenized assets. In the climax of financial discretion, November 2025 witnessed Archax, the UK's premier FCA-regulated digital exchange, tokenizing a chunk of ABRDN's $3.8 billion US onto the XRP ledger. Ripple wasn't a spectator. They seeded $5 million to bootstrap liquidity, marking a critical shift from selling XRP to building a regulated collateral ecosystem where institutions park tokenized cash earning real yield instead of letting stablecoins gather dust. Standard Chartered, Ripple's well-established partner since 2016, expanded their custody role for 2-1 shares, completing a closed-loop ecosystem. Bank holds assets, exchange tokenizes, XRP ledger settles. Think about what this signals. Ripple stopped selling and started buying into their own ecosystem. When insiders accumulate instead of distribute, smart money pays attention, and so should you. Across the border, Stellar is no stranger to institutional trust either. Franklin Templeton's Benji Fund hit a staggering $686 million in assets under management by August 2025, with 65% residing on Stellar's ledger despite competitors like Polygon and Arbitrum attempting to lure capital. Its patent-pending intraday yield feature lets cash earn during active trading hours, something the old banking world simply can't match. Add to this Red Swan CRE's $5 billion tokenized real estate marketplace showcased at Stellar Meridian Rio 2025, enabling fractional ownership in high-value commercial properties, plus Wisdom Tree's Prime app managing between $600 to $900 million in assets, all making tokenized treasuries as easy as sending Venmo payments. Here's the kicker. In 2025, over 68% of XRP transactions were automated via smart scheduling tools, with 750,000 new accounts and wallets holding over 1 million XRP, an uptick of 14% year on year. Non-custodial wallets drive 57% of activity, a clear sign of real ownership and institutional fingerprints on the ledger. When I was up late cross-referencing BIS reports and regulatory filings, it hit me. It's $15 trillion of trapped Nostro liquidity getting readied for release, erasing $30–40 billion in annual opportunity cost along the way. Let me put that $15 trillion in perspective. If even 1% of that Nostro liquidity flows through XRP's on-demand liquidity corridors, we're talking $150 billion in annual volume requiring XRP as the bridge asset. At current prices, that math simply doesn't work, which means price has to adjust upward to accommodate institutional scale. And you guys, I have a special trick for you which nobody seems to be using, and I cannot wrap my head around why. Because if you sign up through my link down in the description onto the BuyDefi exchange, you get a 10% deposit bonus. And now stay with me here. Now here comes the important part. If you have any trading capital on any other exchange and you move it to your newly created BuyDefi account, you get on top of your capital. You moved another 10% extra trading capital. As an example, if you move or deposit $10,000 to your account, you get a $1,000 for free. And here is why this is possible. BuyDefi makes money on trading fees. The more capital you have, the more you trade. The more you trade, the more they earn. So they're literally investing in your trading activity by giving you extra capital up front. And unlike other platforms where bonuses are in the 1 to 3% range, BuyDefi's bonus is a full 10%. I am not kidding. I really don't understand why nobody is doing this. To me, it really seems like people sometimes are too lazy or just don't like free money. I kindly ask you to pause this video and take your time to make an account. You can thank me later in the description of this video. Alright, let's jump back into the video. Japan's $3.7 billion quarterly power play. Forget waiting for global consensus. Japan's already executing at full throttle. SBI Holdings, Ripple's largest shareholder, declared XRP a core asset as of October 2025. Their Q1 remit corridor volume surged to $3.7 billion, bridging Japan and Southeast Asia. Gone are the days when Thai banks had to maintain pre-funded Nostro accounts. XRP bridges settle in mere seconds, unlocking capital for fresh loans or business growth. SBI Ripple Asia pushed this frontier further with supply chain finance. Vietnamese suppliers now receive instant invoice liquidity in local currency, while buyers pay later goodbye to the outdated 60-day waiting game. And remember the 2025 Osaka Kansai Expo? Millions got hands-on with Maya-kun. NFTs on the XRP ledger, fusing identity, payments, and collectibles under intense real-world stress testing. This was more than a tech demo. Japan is lining up every bank to adopt XRP by the Expo's closure, syncing perfectly with G20's cross-border ambitions for 2027. Shinhan Bank and other central banks in Asia are eyeing DLT pilots, meaning this isn't hype, it's sovereign tech validation. Here's why this matters for price. Japan's banking sector alone manages over $7 trillion in assets. When the second largest economy declares your token a core asset and stress test it at a World Expo, you're not looking at speculative upside anymore. You're looking at structural demand that doesn't care about bear markets. Personal confession, I dismissed the Expo until I analyzed logs showing millions of microtransactions flawlessly sustaining peak loads. That was the light bulb moment when I realized governments are quietly marshaling crowds as real validators before mandates kick in. Humanitarian rails scale to trillions. Stellar Aid Assist, powering UNHCR's humanitarian aid since 2022, has moved $4.6 million to over 2,500 refugee households, cutting fees by $12 million per 2024. UNGA reports USDC reaches mobile wallets redeemable in 180 countries via MoneyGram. What took weeks now closes in seconds, with fees slashed by as much as 5–10%. Nepal's Rahat pilot went further. Soroban's smart contracts triggered disaster relief funds automatically ahead of floods using verified weather data, showcasing programmable money on the front line. Q1 2025 alone saw Stellar handle $3 billion in real-world assets. Ripple's Mercy Corps pilot in Kenya dispersed RLUSD to 517 pastoralists. Again, 70% women with parametric drought insurance that cut costs by 75% and delivery time by 90%. NGOs like World Central Kitchen, water.org, and give directly on board at Ripple's RLUSD rails by October 2025, moving hundreds of millions annually. This programmable aid means funds come as smart vouchers designated for food or medicine, expiring if unused, reducing fraud, and aligning with the UN's programmable human rights concept under SDG 16.9. IMF's reflections on Project Enbridge highlight how ISO 20022 messaging perfectly syncs this new payment reality with CBDCs and commercial rails. The mega reveal: BIS Project Agorá. Here's the 30% mark reveal you can't miss. The Bank for International Settlements Project Agorá's 41 global financial heavyweight partners, SBI Shinsei Bank, Standard Chartered, Sumitomo Mitsui, Shinhan, are building the unified ledger, embedding XRP Ledger and Stellar standards at the core. At Apex 2025, engineers demonstrated XRPL's advanced compliance features: zero-knowledge proofs, confidential Merkle-Patricia tries for RWAs, all targeting regulatory-grade institutional readiness. This is the part where price models break. When 41 of the world's largest financial institutions collectively decide your blockchain is the settlement layer for the future monetary system, you're no longer trading a crypto asset. You're holding equity in the next financial operating system, and that gets repriced accordingly. Carbon markets, the green moat. Often overlooked but game-changing. Tokenized carbon credits hit $2.44 billion in 2025, with multi-trillion-dollar potential. Stellar's energy-efficient network aligns with UN Green Digital Public Infrastructure, featuring asset clawback to prevent fraud. Carbon Place, a consortium of BNP Paribas, UBS, CIBC, and NatWest, has bridged over 21 million Vera credits onto Stellar, cryptographically burning credits to end double spends. Ripple's Centigrade platform is seeding liquidity pools for reforestation credits on the XRP ledger, catering to ESG-driven treasury operations, just as prudential regulations ramp up. The green wave McKinsey forecast isn't just coming, it's here, and these ledgers sit front and center. ESG mandates aren't optional for pension funds and sovereign wealth managers, they're regulatory requirements. When trillions in institutional capital must flow through compliant green infrastructure, and your blockchain is already positioned as the solution, price appreciation becomes a matter of when, not if. Derivatives and DeFi unleash the beast. The CME launched XRP futures in May 2025, standard 50K and micro 5K contracts, meaning XRP passed the gold standard institutional vetting. Coinbase's cash-settled XRP monthly futures followed suit, triggering a derivatives arms race signaling deep demand. Why do derivatives matter for price? Because they unlock leverage. Hedge funds that couldn't touch XRP before now have regulated instruments to build positions. December 2025 saw $644 million flow into XRP ETFs alone, and that's before the real institutional allocation cycle begins in 2026. Flare Network also joined with FXRP, minting 5 million XRP in 4 hours, mobilizing dormant XRP capital for DeFi without custody risk. Pierce's June 30 mainnet brought Solidity smart contracts to XRPL's EVM sidechain, settling back to XRP liquidity. Stellar's Protocol 23 upgrade in September 2025 delivered parallel Soroban contract execution, nudging theoretic TPS toward 5,000, a scale real financial apps demand. Ripple's Metaco acquisition, $250 million anchors custody for BNP, Paribas, Citi, and others. Ripple Prime unites custody, treasury, and prime brokerage, making institutional asset access seamless. The network of networks is here. FedNow, via Ripple partner Volante, handles domestic real-time payments, while Ripple's on-demand liquidity fuels cross-border flows, all from the same interface. Brazil's Pix and India's UPI handle domestic volumes. Palau's PSC includes XRP-based legal tender. XRPL hosted integration surpassed 20 wallets in 2025, with 57% of transactions non-custodial, signaling genuine user control. Stablecoin supply topped $305 billion globally, with over $5.7 trillion annual volume. RLUSD reached $900 million market cap within 11 months. XRP ETFs enjoyed $644 million inflows in December 2025, dramatically boosting volumes. Ripple's $4 billion strategic acquisition cement its powerhouse position. Why this changes everything and what it means for price. You're front-running the G20's 2027 roadmap, the UN's DPI mission for 50 countries, and the BIS's Unified Ledger ambition requiring ISO 20022 rails. Institutions picked Speed XRPL's 1,500 TPS frictionless fees and compliance 87% CBDC infrastructure fit per BIS Oct 2024 report. While retail chases casino crypto, institutions are stacking plumbing blocks that move $15 trillion of trapped nostro liquidity into productive flows. Here's the bottom line on price. Every institutional integration you just learned about creates structural demand that didn't exist before. ETF inflows, CME futures, $3.7 billion quarterly corridors, 300 plus banking partnerships, UN Humanitarian rails, carbon credit infrastructure, each one adds buying pressure that compounds over time. The XRP and XLM you hold today are positioned at the intersection of multiple trillion-dollar flows. When those flows fully activate, price doesn't inch upward, it reprices violently to reflect the new reality. The corridors are live, the liquidity is unstoppable, the institutions have already made their move. If you learned something game-changing here, hit subscribe on Crypto Talk and ring the notification bell, because this institutional wave is just gathering speed, and you want to ride it before the masses wake up. Drop a comment with your price prediction. I want to hear where you think this goes. See you in the next one.